Emma Davis sat quietly at her desk, trying to focus on her English homework. Her silver bangles clinked softly as she raised her hand. These bangles were special, a gift from her Jamaican grandmother who told her to wear them proudly. "Mr. Bennett," she said, "I don't understand this assignment. Could you explain it again, please?" The classroom went silent. Mr. Bennett looked up from his desk with cold eyes. He was tall with graying hair and always wore the same brown jacket with leather patches on the elbows. "Perhaps," he said loudly, "if you spent less time with your cultural nonsense and more time paying attention, you might actually succeed in this class." Emma's cheeks burned. She lowered her hand slowly as some students snickered. This wasn't the first time Mr. Bennett had singled her out. Last week, he had made comments about her hair. The week before, he had mocked her accent when she read aloud. "My cultural nonsense," Emma repeated quietly, her voice shaking. Mr. Bennett's face hardened. "Yes, and that attitude is exactly what I'm talking about. See me after class." Emma looked down at her notebook, trying to hold back tears. The words on the page blurred as she fought to stay calm. At 15, she was used to standing out in Oakwood High, but Mr. Bennett made her feel like being different was wrong. What Mr. Bennett didn't know, what nobody in class knew, was that Emma's mother had recently become the new principal of Oakwood High. Just 3 weeks ago, Patricia Davis had taken the job after moving to town for a fresh start. When the bell rang, the other students rushed out. Emma stayed in her seat. Her friend Olivia gave her a sympathetic look before leaving. "Emma," Mr. Bennett said, not looking up from his papers, "your work lately has been disappointing. Your writing reflects a lack of proper English structure." "I'm trying my best, sir," Emma said. "Try harder. This school has standards. You can't expect special treatment just because you're—" He paused. "Different." Emma nodded and left the classroom with a heavy heart. In the hallway, she bumped into Thomas Miller, whose mother was from India. Thomas often faced similar treatment from Mr. Bennett. "Are you okay?" Thomas asked. "I'm fine," Emma lied, wiping away a tear. Later that day, Emma sat alone in the cafeteria. She opened her lunchbox, filled with her favorite Jamaican patties that her mother had made. As she took a bite, she heard laughing from a nearby table. "What? Is she eating?" "It looks weird," one girl said loudly. Emma closed her lunchbox, no longer hungry. She counted the hours until she could go home. When the final bell rang, Emma walked to her mother's office. Patricia Davis was reviewing some papers when her daughter entered. "How was your day, love?" Patricia asked with a warm smile. Emma wanted to tell her everything, about Mr. Bennett, the comments, how alone she felt. But she didn't want to cause trouble. Her mother was new here and had enough to worry about. "It was fine," Emma said, forcing a smile. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about Mr. Bennett's words. Was there something wrong with being proud of her heritage? Should she stop wearing her grandmother's bangles? Should she try to be more like everyone else? At breakfast the next morning, Patricia noticed that Emma was quiet. "Are you sure everything's okay at school?" she asked gently. Emma stirred her cereal. "Mom, do you ever feel like you don't fit in?" Patricia put down her coffee cup. "All the time, especially in this new job." "Why do you ask?" "No reason," Emma said quickly. As they drove to school, Emma's stomach tightened with dread. She had Mr. Bennett's class first period today. Would he single her out again? Would the other students laugh? "You know you can tell me anything," Patricia said as they pulled into the parking lot. Emma nodded but stayed silent. She didn't know that her mother had scheduled surprise classroom observations for that day. She didn't know that Mr. Bennett's behavior would soon be exposed. As Emma walked into the school building, she took a deep breath and touched her bangles for strength. She had no idea that by the end of the day, everything would change. That evening, Emma pushed her dinner around her plate with her fork. The chicken and vegetables remained mostly untouched. Patricia watched her daughter with growing concern. "Emma, you've hardly eaten anything," Patricia said gently. "What's wrong?" Emma shrugged, still looking down at her plate. "I'm not very hungry." Patricia reached across the table and placed her hand on Emma's. Love, I can tell something's bothering you. Please talk to me. The simple touch of her mother's hand broke something inside Emma. Tears filled her eyes and spilled down her cheeks. It's Mr. Bennett, she whispered. He makes me feel like I don't belong. The story came out in a rush, not just about that day but about weeks of small comments, looks, and unfair treatment. Emma told her mother about the cultural nonsense comment, about how he mocked her accent, about how he never called on her, when she knew the answer but always when she was unsure. And it's not just me, Emma added, wiping her tears. He treats Thomas the same way, and Lily too. Patricia's face grew serious, but her voice remained calm. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Emma, I didn't want to cause trouble. You're new at the school and I thought I could handle it. Patricia took a deep breath. Emma, listen to me. There is nothing wrong with you. Nothing. Your heritage is beautiful, and no one has the right to make you feel ashamed of it. That night, after Emma went to bed, Patricia sat at her desk reviewing the school policies. As principal, she had access to the security cameras in all classrooms, a system installed for teacher evaluations and student safety. She pulled up the footage from Mr. Bennett's class. What she saw confirmed Emma's story, and worse. Mr. Bennett consistently praised white students while finding fault with students of color. His bias was clear and disturbing. Patricia didn't sleep much that night. By morning, she had a plan. I'm going to observe some classes today, she told Emma at breakfast. Random visits. It's something I do as principal. Emma nodded, not thinking much of it. At school, Patricia spent the morning reviewing more footage and speaking with other teachers about Mr. Bennett. Most avoided the subject, but a few mentioned concerns about his old-fashioned teaching methods. Fifth period was Emma's English class. Without warning, Patricia walked in just as the lesson began. Please don't mind me, she said pleasantly. I'm just observing. Mr. Bennett's face paled when he saw the principal enter. Mrs. Davis, I wasn't expecting... That's the point of surprise observations, Mr. Bennett. Please continue. Emma sank lower in her seat, eyes wide with worry. The class was tense as Mr. Bennett stumbled through the lesson on Shakespeare. When Thomas raised his hand to answer a question about the play, Mr. Bennett's dismissive tone emerged right away. I suppose that's what they teach you at home. But here we focus on the author's actual meaning, he said with a thin smile. Thomas lowered his hand, embarrassed. Minutes later, Oliver, a white student, gave a very similar interpretation. This time, Mr. Bennett nodded approvingly. Excellent analysis, Oliver. That's exactly right. Patricia made notes throughout the class. Emma could see her mother's expression growing more serious with each passing minute. After class, Patricia asked Emma, Thomas, Lily, and 2 other students to wait outside her office. Then she called Mr. Bennett in. Through the closed door, they could hear raised voices. Those accusations are ridiculous, Mr. Bennett shouted. I treat all students equally. The evidence suggests otherwise, Patricia replied calmly. I've reviewed camera footage from your classes over the past 3 weeks. I've spoken with other teachers, and today I witnessed your behavior firsthand. The students exchanged nervous glances as the argument continued. Later that evening, Emma found her mother sitting quietly in their living room, staring at nothing in particular. Mom? Emma asked hesitantly. What happened with Mr. Bennett? Patricia patted the couch beside her, and Emma sat down. I believe everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow, Patricia said. Even teachers like Mr. Bennett. So he's not fired? Emma asked, surprised. Not yet. But he has a choice to make. He can take a 2-week professional development course on cultural sensitivity and inclusive teaching, or he can resign. Emma fiddled with her bangles. Do you think he can really change? Patricia put her arm around Emma's shoulders. I don't know, love. But I do know that people sometimes need to see themselves clearly before they can become better. And tomorrow, your class is going to help with that. What do you mean? Emma asked. Patricia smiled. You'll see. For now, just know that things are going to change. No student in my school will feel the way Mr. Bennett made you feel. Not ever again. For the first time in weeks, Emma slept peacefully, That night. The next morning, Emma walked into her English class with butterflies in her stomach. Instead of Mr. Bennet standing at the front of the room, her mother was there, writing something on the board. "Good morning, everyone," Patricia said as the students took their seats. "I'm Mrs. Davis, your principal. As you may have noticed, Mr. Bennet isn't here today." A buzz of whispers filled the room. Emma slid into her seat, feeling everyone's curious stares. "Mr. Bennet will be away for 2 weeks," Patricia continued. "He's taking a special training course. During this time, I'll be teaching this class myself." Oliver raised his hand. "Is he in trouble?" Patricia smiled calmly. "This isn't about trouble, Oliver. It's about growth. Today we're going to have an important discussion about respect, culture, and creating a positive classroom environment." She turned to the board where she had written, "Who are you proud to be?" In this class, we all come from different backgrounds. That's not something to hide or be ashamed of. It's something to celebrate, Patricia said. "I'd like each of you to share something about your heritage or family that makes you proud." The room was silent. No one wanted to go first. "I'll start," Patricia offered. "My grandmother came to this country from Jamaica with nothing but a small suitcase and big dreams. She worked as a cleaner for 40 years and put my father through college. These bangles," she touched her wrist, showing bangles similar to Emma's, "were hers. I wear them to remember her strength." Slowly, hands began to rise. Lily spoke about her family's Chinese New Year celebrations. Thomas described his grandmother's famous curry recipes that had won local cooking contests. Even Oliver shared stories about his Scottish grandfather who had been a doctor during the war. When it was Emma's turn, she hesitated, heart racing. "My bangles are from my grandmother too," she said quietly. "Each one has a story. This one was given to her when she graduated from nursing school. This one was from her wedding day. She said that when I wear them, I carry our family history with me." For the first time, Emma saw genuine interest in her classmates' eyes. No snickers, no rolled eyes. After everyone had shared, Patricia handed out a new assignment. "I want you to write about a time when you felt like you didn't belong and what helped you through it." As the students wrote, Emma noticed Patricia walking around the room, reading over shoulders and offering encouraging words. This was nothing like Mr. Bennet's class, where mistakes were mocked and differences criticized. At lunch that day, Emma sat with Thomas and Lily. They talked about the morning's class. "Your mom is amazing," Lily said. "I've never felt comfortable talking about my family at school before." Thomas nodded. "Do you think Mr. Bennet will really change?" Emma shrugged. "I don't know. My mom believes in second chances." William, a boy who had never spoken to Emma before, approached their table with his lunch tray. "Can I sit with you guys?" he asked. They made room for him, surprised. "Those bangles you talked about in class are really cool," William said to Emma. "My grandmother has something similar from Wales. They're called love spoons or something." "Really?" Emma asked. "What are they for?" As William explained the Welsh tradition, Emma felt something shift inside her. For the first time since starting at Oakwood High, she didn't feel like an outsider. After school, Emma walked to her mother's office. Patricia was on the phone but waved Emma in. "Yes, the cultural sensitivity training is mandatory," Patricia was saying firmly. "Mr. Bennet needs to complete it before returning to teaching." She listened for a moment. "No, I don't think it's an overreaction. Every student deserves respect." After hanging up, Patricia sighed. That was the school board. "Chairman, some people think I'm being too harsh on Mr. Bennet. Are you?" Emma asked. Patricia shook her head. "Teaching isn't just about subjects like math or English, it's about helping young people believe in themselves. When a teacher makes a student feel small because of who they are or where they come from, that's not just bad teaching, it's harmful." On the drive home, Emma asked, "What if Mr. Bennet doesn't change?" Patricia kept her eyes on the road. "Then he won't be teaching at Oakwood anymore." "But Emma, people can surprise you. Sometimes they just need someone to hold up a mirror so they can see what they've become." That night, Emma wrote in her journal about the day. For the first time, she wrote about hope. She touched her bangles and thought about her grandmother's strength. Maybe it was her turn to be strong, too. The 2 weeks without Mr. Bennet passed quickly. Under Patricia's teaching, English class became something Emma looked forward to each day. Students shared personal stories in their writing, discussed books from different cultures, and even brought in food for a cultural exchange day. Emma noticed changes in her classmates, too. William now regularly sat with her group at lunch. Olivia, who had always been kind but quiet, spoke up more. Even Oliver seemed less interested in being the teacher's favorite and more interested in actual learning. But on Monday morning of the 3rd week, Emma froze in the doorway of the classroom. Mr. Bennet was back, arranging papers on his desk. "Come in and take your seat, Emma," he said without looking up. Emma walked to her desk slowly, her heart pounding. The other students filed in silently, all eyes on Mr. Bennet. No one knew what to expect. When the bell rang, Mr. Bennet stood before them. Emma noticed he wasn't wearing his usual brown jacket with the patches. Instead, he wore a simple blue shirt. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. "Before we begin today's lesson," he started, his voice uncharacteristically quiet, "I owe several of you an apology." The classroom fell completely silent. Emma gripped the edge of her desk. "The past 2 weeks have been difficult for me," Mr. Bennet continued. "I've had to look closely at my teaching methods and my own prejudices. What I saw wasn't pleasant." He took a deep breath. "I was wrong, and I hurt students who deserve my support instead of my criticism." His eyes moved across the room, stopping briefly on Thomas, Lily, and then Emma. "I'm sorry, Emma," he said directly. "Your cultural heritage isn't nonsense, it's something to be celebrated. I failed you as a teacher, and I'm committed to doing better." Emma blinked in surprise. She had never expected an actual apology. "The same goes for all of you," Mr. Bennet added. "I've let my outdated views affect how I teach. That ends today." The apology wasn't perfect, but Emma could tell it was sincere. Mr. Bennet looked uncomfortable but determined. "Now," he said, walking to the board, "Mrs. Davis has shared your recent work with me. I'd like to continue the project you started with her." On the board he wrote, "Stories that shaped us. Each of us has stories from our families and backgrounds that helped make us who we are. I'd like you to choose one such story and prepare to share it with the class." As the students began working, Mr. Bennet moved around the room. When he reached Emma's desk, he paused. "Those bangles," he said quietly. "They look like they have history." "They do," Emma replied cautiously. "My grandmother gave them to me." Mr. Bennet nodded. "My mother had a brooch she always wore. I never asked her about it before she passed. I wish I had. It was a small moment, but something had changed." Mr. Bennet wasn't exactly friendly, but the contempt in his voice was gone. At lunch that day, the regular group discussed the strange morning. "Do you think he's just pretending?" Thomas asked. "To keep his job?" Lily shook her head. "He seemed different, smaller somehow." "People can change," William added. "My dad used to hate soccer until I started playing. Now he coaches the junior team." Emma wasn't sure what to think. One apology couldn't erase weeks of hurtful comments. But it was a start. After school, Emma found her mother in her office. "How was it?" Patricia asked immediately. "Weird," Emma admitted. He apologized. To everyone, but especially to me, Thomas, and Lily. Patricia nodded. "And do you believe him?" Emma thought for a moment. "I don't know yet, but he's trying." "That's all we can ask for," Patricia said. "Change doesn't happen overnight." Over the next few weeks, Mr. Bennet kept his word. He incorporated diverse authors into their reading list. He started a word of the week from different languages. Most importantly, he listened when students spoke about their experiences. 1. Day Emma stayed after class to ask about an assignment. As she was leaving, she noticed a small photo frame on Mr. Bennet's desk that hadn't been there before. It showed an older woman wearing an ornate brooch. "Is that your mother?" Emma asked. Mr. Bennet nodded. Yes. After our discussions during my training, I realized I've been trying so hard to forget my own background that I became intolerant of others celebrating theirs. He touched the photo gently. My mother was an immigrant too. Somewhere along the way, I forgot what that meant, how hard she worked, how brave she was. Emma didn't know what to say, but for the first time, she saw Mr. Bennett as a person with his own story, not just as the teacher who had made her feel small. As she walked out, she touched her bangles and thought about how stories connected people, even those who seemed to have nothing in common. The school year moved quickly after that. Winter turned to spring, and with the changing seasons came more changes at Oakwood High. Mr. Bennett wasn't perfect. He still had moments when old habits showed, but each time he caught himself and tried again. Emma noticed how he now made a point to learn about different holidays and traditions. When Ramadan started, he made sure Thomas and 2 other Muslim students had a quiet place to rest during lunch if they were fasting. During Lunar New Year, he asked Lily to share some traditions with the class. One afternoon in April, Emma's mother called her into her office after school. "I have something to discuss with you," Patricia said, looking serious but excited. "The school board has approved my proposal for a Cultural Appreciation Week at the end of the term. I'd like you to help lead it." Emma's eyes widened. "Me? Why?" "Because you were brave enough to speak up when it mattered," Patricia explained. "Sometimes that's all it takes to start important changes." The next few weeks were busy with planning. Emma and a small committee of students, including Thomas, Lily, William, and surprisingly Oliver, worked on organizing events, displays, and presentations. Mr. Bennett volunteered to help too. He offered his classroom for planning meetings and stayed late to help with preparations. One evening, as Emma was putting together a display about Jamaican culture, Mr. Bennett approached her. "I have something for the exhibit," he said, holding out a small book. "It's a collection of Caribbean folk tales my mother used to read to me. I thought you might like to include it." Emma took the book carefully. It was old with worn corners and a faded cover. "Your mother was from the Caribbean?" she asked, surprised. Mr. Bennett nodded. "Trinidad. She came here in the 1960s, met my father and never went back." He paused. "I spent many years trying to fit in, to be more British than anyone else. I think that's why He trailed off. "Why you were so hard on students who reminded you of that part of yourself," Emma finished quietly. "Yes." He looked ashamed. "It's not an excuse, but it's something I'm working to understand." On the opening day of Cultural Appreciation Week, the school hallways were filled with colorful displays, music, and the smell of foods from around the world. Parents and community members came to see what the students had created. At the assembly, Principal Davis stood on stage and welcomed everyone. "Today marks the beginning of what I hope will become a yearly tradition at Oakwood," she said. "A celebration of the diverse backgrounds that make our school community so rich." She invited Emma to join her on stage. Emma walked up nervously, her bangles catching the light as she moved. "My daughter Emma will say a few words about how this initiative began," Patricia announced. Emma hadn't prepared a speech. She looked out at the sea of faces, students, teachers, parents. She saw Mr. Bennett sitting near the back, watching attentively. "A few months ago," Emma began, "I felt like I didn't belong here, like being different was something to be ashamed of." She touched her bangles for courage. But then something changed. People started to listen. Teachers started to learn. Students started to share. And we all discovered that our differences aren't problems to fix. They're gifts to share. The audience applauded. As Emma continued speaking about the week's events, she felt a confidence she'd never known before. After the assembly, people crowded around the displays. Emma watched as Mr. Bennett explained the significance of the folktale book to a group of curious parents. "Your speech was brilliant," William said, appearing beside her. "Very inspiring." "Thanks," Emma smiled. "I meant every word." Later, as the crowd thinned, Mr. Bennett approached Emma and her mother. "This is remarkable," he said, gesturing to the cultural exhibits. "Thank you for not giving up on me, Mrs. Davis, and Emma." He hesitated. "Thank you for being brave enough to show me what real strength looks like." As they walked to the car that evening, Emma asked her mother, "Do you think Oakwood has really changed?" Patricia looked thoughtful. "Schools are like people, Emma. They don't change overnight. But when enough people decide to do better, it creates a wave that others follow." Emma nodded, thinking about how different things felt now compared to those first difficult months. At home, Emma carefully placed her grandmother's newest gift, another silver bangle, beside the others on her dresser. This one had words engraved. Inside, "Your voice matters." Emma traced the words with her finger. 6 months ago, she had been afraid to speak up. Now she understood that one voice really could change everything. Tomorrow, she would wear all her bangles to school. And this time when they clinked together as she raised her hand in class, she would do so with pride, not fear.